Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to Generations of Grit, a tale of turf and legacy. Marcus and Paul had become good friends. Paul was even allowing Marcus to make runs across town for him. Nothing major, just dropping off and picking up money. He didn't want to get him in too fast, just giving him something to do, making him feel like he was part of the team. Very slow, very methodically. He was keeping him on a short leash, like Chief had told him to. Now, Paul and Marcus, they had plans later that night. They had met a couple of college girls and they wanted to take them out to dinner. So before they were to meet them, Paul had to drop off receipts and money from the day's earnings. But on the way, they got ambushed. Now, these guys, they had been watching Paul before Marcus started hanging out with him. Even though Paul made sure that he and his runners used different routes every day, different cars every day, after a while, a disciplined observer could nail down all the routes. And that's what happened. They knew the cars they were going to use and what days they were going to use them. They knew the routes they were going to take and when the traffic was going to be heavy or light. They knew when the day was going to be best to get them. And today was that day. So they had two cars. One of the cars pulled up and blocked them off in the front. Another two cars pulled up and blocked them off in the back. Don't panic, Paul said to Marcus. The car is bulletproof. The robbers, all with masks on, they got out of their cars and surrounded them. Throw out the money, one of them yelled. Paul said to Marcus, lock your door. He quickly hit the latch, locking the door. Have you ever shot a gun, Paul said. No, I haven't. Damn, Paul said. Okay, look, as he cocked the gun for him. Just point and shoot when I tell you to. Now, Marcus looks at him and said, wait a minute. I thought you said that the car was bulletproof. It is, replied Paul. But they'll probably set the car on fire and force us out. And if they do that, they won't get the money. If they throw gas on the car, we have to get out quick before the car blows up or we suffocate. And he said, that's when they'll put the fire out and then grab the money and go. That's when we have to come out shooting. Guns are blazing, or we're going to die here today. You understand me? So Marcus, he looked at Paul. He said, I can't. And before he even finished the next word, Paul said, look, bro, everything is cool. When I say jump, you jump. They won't risk shooting at us until we are away from the car. That gives us the advantage. Trust me now. Marcus steadied himself and said, I'm good then. Whenever you're ready. We have to wait until they throw gas on the car. Then we have the tactical advantage. Now, one of the robbers walked towards the car, lit the cocktail and threw it into the window shield. The fire quickly spread on the whole window shield and making its way around the car as the gas spread. That's when Paul said, get ready, on 3. Marcus took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. And they hit the doors. They quickly opened the doors and rolled to the ground. Just as Paul said, they did not shoot. Now he yelled to Marcus. They both started firing their weapons. Paul at the front, Marcus at the guys in the back. Back up, one of the robbers yelled. They all started retreating and jumping into their cars, and they left. They were safe. But the car was still on fire. Grab the receipts and the money. We got to get out of here before the police get here. As soon as they got the money from the car, it exploded. Just in time, Marcus said, as they were walking away. But this blew Paul away now, because he was pissed about what happened. But it was at least 3 miles to the next spot. So as they walked, he looked at Marcus. He said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, I am now," he said, "but I thought it was all over." In a situation like this, they won't risk hitting the car and blowing it up because they won't get the money. He said, "Who were they?" He said, "I don't know, but I think I know where to start looking." "Where do you start looking?" Marcus said. "I think this was an inside job." Now, the funny thing about this to Paul was that this was the third time that he'd been caught up like this. But this is the first time that they ran away without firing a shot. That's just not how robberies go down. That's not how they do. They don't give up and retreat that fast. So Marcus not understanding what he's talking about because he's never been in a situation like he said, "What do you mean? What do you mean that that's not like how it goes?" He said, "Listen to me. It means that they are probably ravens. And they know that if something happens to you, that the chief and your pops would burn this city down trying to find out who did it." "Yeah," Paul said, "I'm pretty sure it was somebody that works for me." Marcus looked at him. Now he's pissed. "How do we find out?" "I don't know if we will ever find out. Always remember something, Marcus. Everybody that claims to love you don't. That's just how it is. The street life is a hard one. When you find somebody you can trust, value that, because it's a rare commodity." Even though Paul wasn't much older than Marcus, Marcus looked up to him. Paul was everything that Marcus wanted to be. He was street savvy, hard, knew how to handle himself under pressure. And that's what Marcus wanted. But he had to get there. He didn't have the experiences that Paul had. So he looked at Paul. He said, "Can I trust you?" Paul looked at him without a doubt. Marcus knew it though, but he wanted to hear Paul say it. Suddenly, a black Impala pulls up. "Y'all late," said the man inside. "What happened?" "We got hit," Paul said. The dude in the car looking both of them over. He said, "Y'all good?" Looking them up and down, staring them around, you know what I mean? He said, "Yeah, we good." "Marcus, this is too tall. He's my second in command. If I don't show up on time, he comes looking for me. Remember to always have somebody that will come looking for you." When they got to the spot, Paul put everything in the safe, and then he took a shower to get the smoke off of it. "Well, I guess we late to catch the girls. Ain't no date for us tonight." "Yeah, I'm tired anyway. I need to be getting home." "So are you going to tell my pops and granddaddy what happened?" Paul looked at him and said, "Yeah, I have to. Why wouldn't I?" "I don't want them to know," Marcus said. "You don't want them to know what?" "You don't know. I don't want them to know that we got robbed." He said, "But I got to tell them. I can't keep that from them." So that's when Marcus said, "Let me tell them." "Oh, yeah. One more thing," Paul said. "When we're out here, you have to stop saying my pops and granddaddy. Call them chief and the old man like we do." Marcus looked at him, laughed, and said, "Okay, man, I'll do that." In the next few months, he started spending more time at the spot. Elijah and Jamal both knew it. Jamal reluctantly embraced it because He didn't want this life for Marcus. He didn't want this at all. But it was Marcus's choice. After the Malik situation, he had to find out for himself if he was cut out for this lifestyle. He understood that. He understood every bit of it. And Paul had helped him understand and see it from an angle that he had never considered. He was hands-on when he hung around Paul. And he had learned more from Paul in the last few months than he had learned on his own before he met Paul. He still wasn't sure if he was cut out for this life, but at least he was getting the opportunity to see for himself. He would find out. More and more, people in the streets were getting familiar with Marcus. All of the top movers and shakers inside the Ravens and outside the Ravens. They knew who he was now, not just by name, but they knew that he had his footprints in the game. They all liked him, but they didn't see him as the heir to the throne. They didn't see that in him. He was a likable person, though. They all thought that he had been sheltered too much to fully understand the struggle. You got to be hungry for this life, because hunger will make you move when you really don't want to. That's how it goes. And Marcus has never been hungry or neglected. Even from prison, his granddad and his dad checked up on him every day. Most of the members of the Ravens, they don't have that type of relationship with their parents or grandparents. Most of them don't even know who their grandfathers are or even talk to their family. The Ravens is their family, and Chief is their father. That's just what it is. Without that, they didn't have anything. So, because Marcus never experienced that gut-wrenching neglect, he wouldn't be able to relate to the foot soldiers. And that's key to being a leader. Elijah knew that neglect. He knew that hunger. That's why even from prison, he continues to call shots. That's why even from prison, they continue to respect him. Paul knew Marcus was on a journey, trying to find his way, but he had to keep him on a short leash, like he was told by Chief. Elijah, he was getting up there in the age. He knew that soon he was going to have to step aside and let Jamal take his rightful place. But who would become his number two? Who would counsel him without fear or favor, telling him what he needed to hear and not what he wanted to hear? And whose word would he respect? Their relationship was forged from birth. And even though Jamal and Marcus are close, Elijah doesn't want Marcus to end up like him and Jamal. He deserved to benefit from the sacrifices that had been made by them. Later that night, Elijah decided to bring up his retirement to Jamal to see what his thoughts were about Marcus. Elijah lay on his bunk with his eyes closed, waiting for Jamal to come in for the night. When he came in, Elijah challenged him to a game of chess. They both liked chess, challenged the mind. So while they played, Elijah asked him about what he thought about him retiring from the Ravens. Now, Jamal wanted it, but he couldn't imagine the Ravens without his pops. Why are you asking me this now? Is there something I need to know? No, son. I just think it's time for you to take over. I always imagined that I would take the top spot one day, but not under these circumstances. When are you planning to do this, Pops? In the next few months, I guess. I just need to make sure everybody needs to know and understand that you're in charge. I'll always be here as your counsel, but you'll be making all the decisions. Now, what do you think about Marcus? I'll be honest. I don't want this life for him. I don't either. But it's got to be his choice, said Jamal. If we decide for him, he'll come to resent us. Let's talk to him about it later, but for now, I'm going to bed. Oh yeah, one more thing. What's that, Pop? Elijah moves his queen directly in front of Jamal's king. Checkmate. That concludes this episode of Generations of Grit. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.